New model day is a lot of fun. New big box day is really exciting. But what would new army day be like? I mean, all of it. Wow! Welcome back to the room. Let's go fast. Oh, Big Mek here, and it's time for another episode for ORKTOBER! And yes, indeed, in this one, we are going to talk about what it's like to buy the entire Orc army. Yes, the whole thing. Let's get into it! Alright, yes, indeed. This is going to be a whole lot of fun. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while now, and was always planned to be part of the ORKTOBER project, because it takes quite a bit of work to figure this out, but also doing the research for it helped me discover some things about the Orc army. So let's get into the premise and the setup of it, if you will. We've all been there, right? You walk into the Warhammer store, you see the wall of models, and you look at all of them and you go, oh man, this is really cool. You pick your army and you imagine what it would be like to just immediately own everything for that army. Now, I have quite the extensive Orc collection that's been built up over the last 25-ish years. I don't own the whole army, not by a long shot, and most people never will, and that's totally cool. This is all hypothetical. What I wanted to figure out was, if you decided to do this, right, if you got the Codex and like the Combat Patrol and you were like, this is it, this is my jam, I'm never going to buy another army, but I want everything in this book. And we're not saying maxed out. I'm not saying like 6 full-size battle line units. I mean like just one of everything. What would that be like? And you know, this has some practical applications, because if you want to play competitively, you have to have different units that you can swap in and out so that you can get better at playing or play against different, armies that you're playing against, like play your strengths to their weaknesses kind of thing, or even just different kinds of tournaments. You're going to play different styles of army, not to mention your army is going to change depending on the size of the battles. So there's a lot of different reasons why you would have different units that you would sub in and out of your army. But in order to have different units to sub out, you have to own them all. So what I did is I spent many hours on Games Workshop's absolutely terrible website researching every single unit in the Ork Codex. Now, this is the 10th edition Ork Codex, so we're not looking at anything from older editions, nothing that's in Legends, just the units that are current and available to use in all formats right now. I did leave one unit out, and that is the Gargantuan Squiggoth. And even though it's in the Codex, it's a Forge World model, and well, even somebody that's crazy enough to do this might not necessarily be crazy enough to drop 500 teeth on a single model. So other than that one guy, everything else in this book, we are going to cover. All right, first, some data for you. The whole codex here, again, minus the Gargantuan Squiggoth, is 51 units. Those 51 units, taken at minimum size, no enhancements or upgrades or anything like that, you're looking at 5,980 points as of right now. This is late October 2024, so after the latest points adjustment to come out. Almost 6,000 points to take one of everything. Now again, that's all minimum size, that's no upgrades that would cost any points, anything like that. What we end up with at the end of us doing this, however, is 6,370 points. And there's a reason why for that. We're going to end up with a couple of units that are larger than minimum size for very, very good reason. Now, of these 51 units, 17 of them are HQs, or character units. 17! That is by far the biggest chunk. And it also rolls into, there's only 20 infantry units. So yeah, almost all of your characters are infantry, and just, it's a whole lot of single character models, and these things cost a lot of money. So if there was anywhere that you really want to do your research before you buy, or have the ability to kit bash something, that's going to be where you're going to find that out. Next is your battle line or basic troops. There's only 2 real battle lines. If you run Dread Mob, you can take Gretchen's battle line, so we'll call it 2.5. Plus, Grats are small, this is like a half unit, so 2.5 units of that. 4 transports. Only 1 is a dedicated transport, that's the truck, but 4 total transports. And then you've got everything else. Now, back in the day when you had the force organization chart, those would be broken down into elites, fast attack, heavy support, and terrain. And so breaking it out like that, you're looking at around 4 elite units, which is actually really, really small. It's one of the things I realized about the orcs is we don't have a whole lot of elite units anymore. And looking back through all of the older codexes, a lot of those units have gone away. Things like Knob bike squads, that we've had up until really recently have kind of gone. Even the Knob with WAAAAAAAAAGH banner, like that was an elite unit, now is no more. Also, a lot of elites did get rolled into character or HQ. So yeah, it did kind of go that way. But yeah, as far as units go, not a whole lot of elite units. Fast attack, we had a lot, though. There's 11 fast attack units, and surprisingly, 9 heavy supports, and then 1 lone terrain, which of course is the Big Ed Boss Bunker. This big chunk right here. Now this is a really, really cool kit. It's supposed to be a Gargant head, and it was a whole lot of fun to build and paint. It is absolute garbage on the tabletop. Back in, what was it, 8th edition, maybe even 9th, you could teleport this thing, like deep strike it onto the battlefield, and all sorts of other wonky stuff. All of that is gone no more. It's basically useless in 10th edition as a unit. However, as a piece of terrain to just use as terrain instead of as a unit, and a piece of like something really cool to own for your army and set your army up around, and like display up on your shelf, really, really cool. So I do recommend getting this unit for that. So for that reason, we left it in our list. Now, as far as the unit makeups themselves, when you get away from, where they take place in the force organization chart, just what type of model they are, again, infantry is the biggest. You're looking at 21 different infantry units or models, so that's a lot of guys on foot that you're building. There's 4 different units that are mounted, so that means they are on some sort of a mount. And then there are, surprisingly, 16 vehicle units. So if you like vehicles, orcs are definitely a great army for that. That's a lot more vehicles than most have. There's also 2 monster slash giant models, the 1 terrain that we already talked about, and surprisingly, 4 different flyers, which we're going to get into those more in a little bit. All right, so next was going to figure out how much it would actually cost to buy this whole thing. If you were going to put one of everything in your cart at the Games Workshop store and just hit checkout, what would it be? It's not that simple, though. All right, to get started, we're going to start with the Codex because, well, you can't play the army without it. So we are adding this on here. So if you don't want to include the Codex, if you just want model cost, subtract the list price of the Codex, which I want to say is up to like 60 bucks these days. These things are getting really honking expensive. But yeah, so we're starting with the Codex, and then we're starting with the Combat Patrol. Unfortunately, not this Combat Patrol. This is the original one for the Orcs. This one is out of print, and I didn't want to include anything that is hard to get. So no Holiday Battle Force like the Beastnag Stampede, no Summertime Battle Force like the Stompa Boys that just came out, no boarding actions. We're not doing any kind of dirty Death Skull cheating, but we are going to start with the current Combat Patrol. So not this one. I don't own it because I already own all the units without having to buy it, but I can show it to you. This is the Combat Patrol currently sold for Orcs. It is called Morgrim's Butches, and it is all Beastnag. You get 20 Beastnag boys, the Beast Boss on foot, and a unit of Squighog boys. Now, again, I actually own these models, so I don't really need to buy the Combat Patrol because I don't need a third set of Beastnag boys or Squighog boys, but I can show you the actual models too. Because here in Orktober of 2024, Old Big Mek's main project is to paint his Beast Snaga army that he's been working on, which is a lot bigger than the Combat Patrol because I had the Beast Snaga army box and I had some additional models as well. But this is a Beast Snaga boy. This is one of the knobs, pretty much fully tabletop painted. I do still have to do his base and a little bit of washes on him, but otherwise he is good to go. So you're going to get 20 of these lads, along with a squad of the Squig Hog Boys. This is the knob on Smash a Squig. You can see he is still not finished, but been working on him for painting. Again, really cool model. And then the Beast Boss on foot. Now, this is not the one that you get in the Combat Patrol. I actually converted this from the Warhammer TV exclusive mini from the first year, which was actually an Age of Sigmar guy, but he looked really cool. Now, one thing that I didn't know when I converted this, I erroneously thought, like everybody else, that Beast Snaga meant it was feral orcs, so I used the Age of Sigmar guy. I did give him a claw with the gun in it, like the main one, but yeah, his aesthetic is actually not matching up very well with the real Beast Snagas, and that's because these guys have a ton of, as you see, bionic parts on them, or Bionorc. So yeah, like every third guy has a complete bionic limb, if not more, including the Squigs. In fact, one of the Squigs has a tire instead of a legs. So yeah, these guys are actually really, really mechanical. They are more like Scar Boys than they are feral guys. But we're starting with the Combat Patrol, which means we have 20 of these when the minimum size of the squad is 10. So already we're getting a bump. But it makes sense to start with the Combat Patrol because you're basically getting these 10 guys for free, but also that's where most people are going to start, right? You're going to walk in the store, you're going to buy Codex and Combat Patrol, you're going to build and paint those and decide this is your army, and you're going to buy everything else from there. So that's where we're starting to. All right, starting off with buying our characters, right away we run into a problem, and that is this model right here. This is the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, and also Mazrog Scragbad, who is a named character. These are both in the same box. In fact, it's a really, really popular model because you can buy it and build it both ways. So you could either magnetize the torso and switch them back and forth, which is super nice to do and probably something most people do. Or if you do end up wanting to run both models, people will buy 2 copies of it and then use each spare torso to build themselves like a Beast Boss on foot and a Pain Boss or something like that. So we do have to buy 2 of this model in order to get the 2 different units. And then we immediately run into a actual problem. It's the Big Mek in Mega Armor. Now, he is not a standalone character anymore. Back in the day, he would be a metal character that you'd buy on the old blister packs, but when they released the plastic Mega Knobs box, the parts to make the Big Mek in Mega Armor was in that box. So, in order to make him, you have to buy the box of Mega Knobs. Unfortunately, that means you end up with 1 Big Mek and only 2 Mega Knobs, which is not a very big squad. So we're going to have to buy 2 boxes of Mega Knobs in order to get a squad of 5 Mega Knobs and 1 Big Mek in Mega Armor. Now, I can tell you that that box actually includes enough parts to build 2 Big Meks in Mega Armor, no problem. So if you were going to do this in real life, that's what I would recommend doing. Then you'd be able to build 2 of those characters and still have 4 Mega Knobs. But also, like I've said before in other videos, the best thing you could do is convert a bunch of Mega Knobs from other things like the Terminators that come in the Leviathan set, because they're a really expensive unit. It was like 70 or 80 bucks now for those 3 figures, and it's an older box, so that one doesn't feel very good to have to buy twice. But that's what we have to do, so we're going to end up with 5 Mega Knobs in our list here instead of just 2, because 2 is weedy. All right, the next character problem is actually really, really interesting in the right now. In the right now, Games Workshop does not like having any models in their codex, or any units in their codex that they don't have models for. There's one exception, the Warboy. So this right here is a Warboy. He's a psychic odd boy that comes in the kill rig model. When you glue him to the kill rig, it becomes a kill rig. When you don't, it becomes a hunter rig. The problem being, you can't actually buy him on his own. He only exists on that sprue they have yet to make 5 years later, an actual Warboy on foot himself. Now, a lot of people are going to use the Warhammer Underworlds guy like this, or the Age of Sigmar guy, or, you know, convert your own out of whatever AOS or 40k orc you like. But yeah, getting yourself a Warboy is literally impossible. So when we're buying this army, we're not getting one. Now, you are going to have a spare one, because we do have to buy 2 kill rigs, which we'll get to in a second. So when you build one as a hunter rig, you will have one left over. So just get yourself a proper size base, and that will take care of the Warboy. And yeah, speaking of the kill rig, this is my not yet completed hunter rig / kill rig. I've made mine where it can go both ways. And yeah, really cool kit, really gigantic kit. This is actually the biggest kit in the Orc arsenal right now outside of the Stampa. And in fact, I think when you stood it up, it was as tall as the Stampa. But yeah, you will need 2 of these. But again, like I said, that spare Warboy for making one of them a hunter rig gives you the missing Warboy. All right, moving on. Next, you get to my absolute favorite conundrum in the entire Orc army, and that is the Burnas and Ludas. Now, if we're going to do one of every unit from the Codex, you have to have a unit of Burnas and a unit of Ludas. So a normal person is going to buy, 2 boxes. The problem, of course, being that the Burnas / Luda box comes with everything you need to make 5 Burnas and everything you need to make 5 Ludas, except for 10 bodies. You only get 5 bodies, but those bodies are literally the exact same bodies that are in the 11 body boys squad that is the older one that is still sold today. In fact, I did a whole video called Secrets of the Sprue on this really fun piece, which I will link right there. Now, since we're buying a box of Ludas and a box of Burnas, so that we don't have to do conversions, we're going to immediately see this and go, well, hey, we might as well have a squad of 10 of each instead of a squad of 5 of each. So what to do? Obviously buy a box of 11 boys, which will come in handy later. But that got me thinking about, what about the actual boys themselves? If you're buying everything in the Codex, wouldn't you also want to buy just every model, period? So we're going to go ahead and buy 2 boxes of those 11 boys, one of which to build just as a boys squad to go with the other 10-boy monopose box. So we are going to end up with 20 total boys. Next is the Morkanaut / Gorkanaut. Again, you're going to have to buy 2 of these kits to build both, even though they give you all the parts in the one kit. Now, if you don't have a lot of teeth like old Big Mek, you're going to build yours kind of like this, where it can be both a Morkanaut and a Gorkanaut, depending on how you're feeling that day. But again, if you want to be a completionist, you're going to have to buy 2 complete ones of these in order to build one as a Morkanaut and one as a Gorkanaut. Then comes maybe the most surprising thing about the entire Orc army right now. There are 4, count them, 4 different flyers that all actually come in the same box. So originally this kit was the Dakajet, and it only came with the Dakajet parts. And then later on, GW made a extra frame to go in it to make the Wazbom Blastojet and the other ones. And so now you could build all 4 versions from the one box, which is really cool. But all 4 different flyers are different units in the Codex. So this is a Burnabama, although again, not a lot of teeth, so I've kind of equipped it to be both a Burnabama or a Blitzabama, depending on how I'm feeling that day. But yeah, you can build the Blitzabama, the Burnabama, the Dakajet, and the Wazbom Blastojet. So you have to buy 4 plane kits, which is hilarious because each plane kit comes with 2 sets of wings. So you're going to end up with 4 spare sets of wings and a bunch of extra parts as far as bombs and missiles and even pilots and things like that, because the Wazbom has more guys in it. There's like a tail gunner, all sorts of crazy things. You're going to end up with a lot of spares basically. But yeah, 4 very useless flyers. Which brings me to the unit with the opposite problem, which is the Battle Wagon. Now, back in the day, the Battle Wagon came on its own, and then there were different boxes for the upgraded ones. There was the Bone Breaker, which had the actual big death wheel on it, and then there was something else, the one that had the R-top with the cannon and all that. They were even separate units in the older codexes, so you could actually end up taking 9 different battle wagons, 3 of each data sheet, which was really cool looking on the tabletop, but ultimately no one is going to own 9 battle wagons. In the 10th edition codex, they all got squished into one heading under just battle wagon, and then all of the options were available for free, which means in our list we only have to buy 1 battle wagon, even though they used to be literally boxed and sold as 3 separate units. So that was a little funny. And that's it. That's the end of our conundrums. So by having 20 boys, 20 Beast Snaga boys, 10 Ludas, 10 Burnas, and 5 Mega Knobs. Our entire Codex list of one of every unit has grown to 6,370 points before enhancements. That's a good size WAAAAAAAGH. And you might be thinking to yourself, is this army any good? Well, I mean, at 6,000 points, it's not going to be, but if you were going to play orcs, it's actually a pretty decent army because you do end up with 20 boys and 20 Beast Snaga boys and 10 Ludas and 10 Burnas and 5 Mega Knobs. And those are great bases for your army at a 2,000 point build. And then you're going to swap other units in and out depending on what your play style is, what detachment you're running, what kind of game you're going to play, or what tournament you are in. So having the one of each collection actually kind of makes a whole lot of sense. So, knowing that, moving forward, looking at our 51 different units, looking at all of these boxes we have to buy, how much money are we spending at Warhammer.com? Again, this is full fat retail, no discounts. Obviously, online, you can get between 15 and 20% off at, you know, some really great retailers or even Amazon, eBay, things like that. I'm just going to give you straight up US dollar retail price so that you can get your discount from there. Now, there were a few units that we can't get. We already talked about the Warboy on foot. He doesn't exist, but you are going to get a spare one of him in the kill rig that you build as a hunter rig. You will have to hunt down your own base. I believe he's on a 40 millimeter, but that's not too hard. So you're good to go there. There are, however, a few units that are not available. One is Tank Bustas. Those are out of stock and they are online purchase only, but we already know they're getting replaced with the new Tank Bustas that are coming in the new Kill Team box. So eventually you'll be able to buy them anyway. The old ones are selling for 52. You figure the new ones, because they're a new fancy Kill Team, they're probably going to be 80 like the Scouts. So keep that in mind. But I did price it in as the Tank Bustas at 52. Next is Warboss on foot. He is also online only and totally out of stock because, again, I think we're getting a brand new Warboss and he's going to be on a 50 millimeter base and you're going to be able to use good old Uthak Blackhawk as well. He retails for 37. I kept him in here at 37. Obviously, the new one is going to be more expensive, probably in that $42 to $52 range. However, you can still get Uthak Blackhawk pretty darn easily for right around the same price. So just go with that. Alternatively, remember that we did buy 2 of those boxes of 11 boys, and that one of the knobs in the new Monopose set is the size of the old Warboss, and then your Runt Herd in the Gretchen set, which is, where is he? Right here. The Runt Herd in the Gretchen set comes with 2 different options. You can build him with this attack squig or just with a whip. So if you build him with the whip, you have an attack squig to put on your Warboss kit bash. So even though you can't buy a Warboss, if you did all of this the way old Big Mek is telling you to, you're going to build your own anyway, so we're good to go there. So you can save yourself $37. Next is Big Mek, the regular old Big Mek himself. This handsome fella right here. You can't actually buy him at the moment. He's not online only though, so you could probably find him in your local Warhammer store, but for some reason he's just kind of sold out at the moment. But again, not a big deal to get your hands on him. He's readily available on online, Amazon, things like that, just not in the Warhammer store. So we left him in there as well. Finally, surprisingly, the Big Mek with Shock Attack Gun is also online only and totally out of stock at the moment. I don't think that kit is getting replaced. It's actually fairly new and it's all plastic and it's really well done. I don't happen to have the most current kit. My Big Mek with Shock Attack Gun is the old metal one. So not the old original OG Rogue Trader metal one, but the, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there, metal one that they then fine cast into resin before they made the current plastic one. But the current plastic one, again, isn't that old. So I'm not real sure what's going on with him being out of stock and online only at the moment. But he normally retails for $42. We left him in this as well because you could still find him around on shelves and online. So I'm not real sure what Games Workshop is thinking. But that is everything we're buying. So we've got a Codex, a Combat Patrol, which has 3 units in it, plus 43 other models in order to make everything. Now again, we're going to be able to come up with our own Warboss. We're going to be able to come up with our own Warboy. but you are going to need to, you know, go shop in store to find a Big Mek and a shock attack gun, and then just kind of wait for the tank busters. Now, the ones that you can get, so minus the tank busters, war boss, Big Mek, and shock attack guns. So the Codex, the CP, and the 43 models that you can get online is $3,180.25. Now, you add in the 4 missing units, again, at the prices that I just mentioned, you're looking at $3,363.25. Again, that's full fat retail. If you are paying full list price for absolutely everything, $3,363, a lot of teeth. In fact, it's $1.89 per point in the army. Now, I don't know how that compares to other armies because I haven't done this for any other army yet, but it definitely makes me very curious about it. And after Orktober, if you guys liked this kind of content, I will definitely do all of the math and searching and list building and things like that for the other armies as well, because it's actually kind of really interesting to think about how many points per dollar you're getting. So yeah, $1.89 per 1.89 points, there we go, per dollar, and $3,363 total to own every single orc unit. Now, as for whether or not you should do this, obviously I wouldn't recommend it. I think you're better off having like some more boys, or some more beast snagga boys, some more grots, more of your battle line things that you're going to bring more often, and way, way less of the characters and HQs. You just simply don't need that many. That being said, it was really, really interesting to just kind of get a look at the army, not only to see what it was like, but the differences in the models. The whole having 4 different units for the flyers that are all in one box, but they still take up 4 codex spots, versus the battle wagon that used to be 3 different units is now only 1, but they're all in the box is like a little funny. And the fact that there's still a unit out there, shh, don't tell GW, that they don't make a model for is really interesting. So yeah, that's been our deep dive look at what it would be like to own the entire orc army. All right, that's going to do it for this one. I'm going to get back to painting my beast snaggas that I was showing you for Orktober, hopefully to get them at least tabletop ready by the end of the month. But in between now and then, future, I have to make more Orktober videos because there's a new one every single day of the month. And so I'll see you in that one. And until then, Wagon!